Good morning and welcome. Today we are correcting a minor oversight from 2020. Meet the last remaining member of my vintage ceramic gnome crew. Actually, I think this is a dwarf, but let's get to that a little bit later. Years ago, a lovely, irregular client was downsizing and gifted me this amazing vintage crate packed to the brim with these guys and gals. Her late husband had collected them for years, and I was absolutely giddy to give them a new home. So now, during the 2020 lockdown, I went on a massive crafting binge, like a lot of people, I'm sure, and painted almost all of these little guys and gave them all a makeover. Some have seen better days now, but they've survived winters in the shed and still look pretty good thanks to a solid coat of acrylics and heavy-duty clear varnish. But somehow, this little guy got left behind. Today is his redemption arc, and we're gonna go full classic with him. So because this guy is completely terracotta, I don't want to submerge him into the water. I want to be able to paint him sooner than later, and if he's wet, the paint won't stick. So while he's having his little bath, and while I'm painting this little guy and showing you what I've done, I want to give you a few little fun facts about these little guys. Now, there's a little bit of history behind garden gnomes. It's actually a wild ride that moves from ancient mythology to high society estates before they finally became beloved quirky garden ornaments that we know today. So now, here's a little breakdown of where these little guys and gals actually come from. Long before they were made of ceramics, gnomes were a part of European folklore, specifically Swiss and Germanic mythology. They were viewed as magical, subterranean creatures, often called Gnome, who lived underground, guarded hidden treasures, and protected the earth, minerals, and plant roots. The farmers and gardeners believed that placing representations of these earth spirits around their land would protect their crops and livestock from bad luck or pests. I'm trying to get as much of the wet out of him as I can because it's like that terracotta clay, so I know that it will hold all the moisture in it. Yeah, I'm gonna go set him out in the sun and drip dry here. He's all dry and looking fly. He has dried up really nicely, actually, and his beard is so black, I probably don't even have to touch that. Oh, and his elbow patches, like how cute of a green is that? He's less crusty and less dusty, but he does need a good freshening up. I don't really know what color I want to paint him. I don't know. What color would you guys paint him? Let us know in the comments. I say us because Mark is a part of this channel, except he's working today. You might actually see him throughout this video. I'm not too sure. This video has been filmed over a few days because I can't just sit and paint him. You have to let part of it dry before you can touch another part. And anyways, it was a slow process, but I really did enjoy it when I took the couple hours in the afternoon to sit and paint. Now, I want to get into the rest of the history of these garden gnomes. And I probably should have looked into the history before I started painting him because I did some research and okay, I don't want to ruin the rest of the history. So I'm going to stick a timestamp right here, right now. If you know what I'm going to say regarding the colors, it's a bit of a story and I'll explain it later, but this is the timestamp right here. Let me know what color you would paint him if you know what I know now. Okay, let's move on to the history because there's some weird facts about them that I was kind of taken aback by.
Bring me into golden sunlight. If I'm going with you, I know we'll get to the other side.
High society in the 18th century, before the small statues arrived, wealthy European elites in the 1700s had a bizarre trend: live garden hermits. Rich estate owners would literally hire real people to live in purpose-built cave or folly on their property. These hired hermits were paid to grow out their beards, wear rustic robes, and care for the estate's grounds to provide an air of mysticism and romance the landscape. When keeping a live human in your garden thankfully fell out of fashion, these landowners looked for low-maintenance, inanimate alternatives. Thank goodness, because that's just weird.
Sinking in, I know this feels right. Catching a breeze, love moving through me like a wildfire.
That's looking better already.
Like a wildfire.
The garden gnome as we know it today was officially born in Greifenrode, a small town in Germany, during the 1870s. Now, the inventor, a man named Philip Grabel, began manufacturing the very first terracotta garden gnomes, locally called Gardensverge, meaning garden dwarfs. Now, the design, he modeled them after local miners of the region who wore bright red caps so they could be easily spotted underground in the dark mines. This is why the classic gnomes wear that iconic red hat. Around that same time, another German manufacturer, August Heisinder, started mass producing them and quickly became a sensation across Germany and France.
Never the same. Never you calling my name. I'm taking my sweet time. Hey, whatever the plan, I know I'm holding the best of me out of my head. I know you always understand. Bring me into golden sunlight. If I'm going with you, I know we'll get to the other side. Sinking in, I know this feels right.
In the 1840s to 1890s, gnomes made the leap into the English-speaking world thanks to an eccentric, wealthy landowner named Sir Charles Ism. In 1847, he traveled to Germany, bought 21 terracotta gnomes, and brought them back to his massive estate in North Hampshire, England, to decorate a giant rockery. One single survivor from that original batch, affectionately named Lampy, is still in existence today and is insured for over $1 million.
Catching a breeze, love moving through me like a wildfire, like a wildfire.
It's actually not looking too bad. I gotta lighten him up a little bit. He looks a little drab.
Mm-hmm. You gonna do a lighter red or purple, whatever it is?
I think for his hat, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Spoiler alert, I've changed the color of his hat completely. Now, I really like this color green for maybe his hat. Now, as you see, his colors have changed drastically over this video, but bear with me here. I'm nearing the end, but there's one more fun fact actually that I need to tell you about. And I don't know if it's going to completely change my perspective on this whole little guy or not. Undecided. So let's get into it. Excuse me.
It's because of the plastic.
Oh.
It's because of the plastic. You won't bite it if you don't plug it in. Move your nose, you had. The director, he's in your frame. Here's your way, Colin.
Just leave him. He's trying to be a good boy.
Well,
Okay, I'll let that dry. These are so nice to paint. They're so smooth, except they're kind of fiddly. The paint dries quick, but I think I'm happy with the coat. You know what? I might change these to brown. These are ugly. So now, in the 20th century, the ceramic and plastic evolution hit. By the mid-1900s, gnomes evolved from luxury items for the wealthy into a massive trend for everyday homeowners. In the 1960s and 70s, there was a giant craft boom. This is likely where your vintage collection comes from. Hobbyist ceramic shops became a massive craze. Companies sold unpainted ceramic molds, quote-unquote greenware, and people would buy them, hand paint them at home, take them to a local studio, fire them in a kiln, and it became a beautiful form of community folk art. by the late 70s and 80s, manufacturing shifted heavily towards cheap plastic and resin, making the older heavy ceramic ones a true collector's item.
Hey you guys, Mark here, and I have been loving these metal art kits. This one was an expert level and it has not been disappointing. The pieces are so intricate. Thank goodness I got a strong pair of tweezers to help me out with this. If you like these kinds of crafts and kits, model making, get one. You won't be disappointed.
Like, look at that. Look at those little teeth. Do you want to go sit outside for a little bit?
That's a nice idea.
Here's that fun fact that I wanted to tell you about. In 1937, Disney released Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which completely supercharged the garden gnome industry worldwide because everyone suddenly wanted a Doc or a Happy or a Sleepy or a Grumpy in their flower beds. I Google searched this exact guy. I took a picture and I put him through Google Lens, and it's saying that he in fact is one of these Disney characters. Didn't even dawn on me because his beard's black. His beard came to me black. So all of the Disney characters, from what I could see, all have white beards. So now what do I do? Do I change him to look like an actual Disney character and one of the seven dwarfs, or do I just leave him? Because now he is not a gnome, he's a dwarf. And, I don't know what to do. What would you guys do? Let me know in the comments what you think. But until then, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I know summer is a crazy busy time for everybody, us included. And I hope you're having a great summer. Till then, we shall see you in the next video. Bye guys. Thanks so much.
Bring me into golden sunlight.
Oh, for the love of gnomes. What the? Oh, she's actually really cute. Oh, what? No, are those googly eyes? Oh, I have the same one. I painted them completely different though. I feel like I like mine a little bit better.
If I'm going